morning, sports investors. How you doing today? Welcome back, Betting Public Sports Show. I'm your beloved host, Fane Rothstein, aka Michael Snackson, aka Bay Old Wolf, aka Malcolm Excellence, aka Hacksaw Jim Thuggin. Today's Tuesday, April 30th, 2024. Got no action today. I'm just gonna talk a little shit today because a couple things kind of percolating, kind of chapping my ass right now. But before I do that, make sure you like, subscribe to the channel, leave comments, share the content. All right, but please like and subscribe. There were a couple things I wanted to talk about before I got to the main topic, but to hell with it. Let's just get right into it. Again, Steven Jackson from the All the Smoke podcast, former NBA basketball player, has just given us reason number 4080 of why you should not watch these former rapper podcasts. As you know, he's going off on Stephen Smith lately. Stephen A. Smith. Listen, I'm not Stephen A. Smith's personal bodyguard. I just respect the grind. I know what he's been through. I know how he had to hustle to get there, to where he's at. And where he's at is a top 3 sports broadcaster of all time. You're talking him, Howard Cosell, who's basically an old white version of him. Howard Cosell, from the 70s and 80s. You've seen him in the Ali movies. And Chris Berman. Those, you don't see him on ESPN as much. Those nicknames he used to do, he's got a Hollywood Walk of Fame off of that shit. Chuck New Kids on Now Block. Burt Be Home Bly Levin. Shit like that shit was, I'm telling you. And Stephen A. Smith, people, who the kids emulate. Everybody used to try to, emulate Howard Cosell. Greetings, fight fans. Welcome back to Madison Square Garden. That was terrible. Because Howard Cosell's one of those guys, either you can either impersonate him or you can't. I can't. You can't impersonate him. You sound like somebody trying to impersonate him. That's what I sounded like. And now Stephen A. Smith, the kids with that, that rapid fire sesquipedalian delivery he does. Okay? But listen, Stephen A. recently was on his show, First Take, on ESPN, and said that regarding a play at the end of the game between the Clippers and Mavericks, I guess it was a dirty play that Russell Westbrook of the Clippers did. He said he called the league to see what were they doing about it. And here comes Steven Jackson of All the Smoke, tells him, that's some old sucker shit. Basically said it was some sucker shit. I forget his exact quote. But you ain't one of the you don't work for the league, all this and that, all this old monkey ass shit he was saying. And then Jalen Rose, who used to be on ESPN, allegedly, Stephen A. Smith was dealing with his now former wife and whatnot. But Jalen Rose, put out some tweet like, obviously about Stephen A. Smith. I'm glad said something like I didn't have to be a coon on TV and blah blah blah. I could walk proudly in my city, all this whole other shit going at Stephen. And what Stephen A. Jackson said basically just sums up why athletes should not be podcasters / media personalities, because most of you have no clue of what you're talking about. Stephen A. Smith is supposed to call the league and ask them, what are you doing about this? is anything being done because so he can give factual information to his viewers. It's called due diligence, which you former rappers and former jocks don't do. You only know basic shit that somebody, had this song out, or, you won Rookie of the Year, you had this many points, or this many carries a year and this many yards per attempt, all that type of shit. Basic banal shit. Stephen A. tried to go research and get some, something from a sourcing, get some information from a source so he can give to his viewers. You're right. He doesn't work for the league. That's why he had to call to get the info. And you don't work in the league anymore, Steven. You're no longer a player. See, this reminds me of there was I don't even know if it's out there. I'm sure it's out there somewhere on the internet, YouTube or something. But Howard Cosell, when he was talking about why athletes don't make good broadcasters, and that allowing them to be broadcasters was kind of messing up the game, the broadcasting game. I imagine he was talking about Don Meredith, his former co-host on Monday Night Football back in the day. Because Don Meredith used to always tell Howard, you never played the game. You never played the game. And that's how a lot of, Stevie Jackson and Matt Barnes, that's how they be sounding when they be saying shit. You never played the game. But anyway, Cosell says, he goes off on his rant, and he goes, how does a guy become the next Howard Cosell? How does he become the next great broadcaster? He plays second base. Basically saying that these guys don't know what they're doing. And he's right. Steven Jackson, if I were you, I would be more worried about Matt Barnes, your co-host on All the Smoke. This the motherfucker be out here spitting on people. Filing, getting, spitting on people, then trying to file TPOs on people to cover it up. Swelling up on high school students at a basketball game. That's the guy you need to be worried about, not Stephen A. Smith, man. For real. I don't get the vitriol for Stephen A. Him or Whitlock, because what's his name? Steven Jackson called him Shitlock and all that. There were three dudes from the same era of sports and writing journalism: Stephen A. Smith, Jason Whitlock, and Dan Le Batard. These guys came out and their whole shit, when they first got out there, their whole shit was kind of protecting the athletes, from the typical white media that was always dissing them. They were trying to protect them. They were 20-somethings, early 30-somethings when they were doing this. Kind of immature, in their lives and careers, and as they grow older, they know that, like, hey, you got to think about things a little differently. They've matured. They've evolved. I remember specifically one time Dan Le Batard, this is the first time I'd heard of him, too. It was in ESPN, the magazine, and he was talking about the Terrell Owens Sharpie issue. If you all, go Google that or, YouTube it. Terrell Owens catches a game-winning touchdown on Monday Night Football, and after, boom, catches a touchdown, then, signs the football goes into a sock, pulls out a Sharpie, signs the football, and puts it into the stands. And everybody was, going off, and he was like, wait a second now. This isn't verbatim what Dan said, but I just remember this being some of the fodder that he had used to defend Terrell Owens. He said, you mean to tell me that you got guys out here like the Rocket Ishmael, who's always been known as one of the fastest players in the game since he's been at Notre Dame. You got guys like him out there who take all their pads out, their thigh pads and knee pads out to play, and we're mad at this guy, Terrell Owens, who's playing with a sock in his, playing with a pin in his sock on national TV. Really? We should be celebrating him, for being that type of, that type of caliber of athlete, on and on and on like that, But like I said, those guys, they used to protect the athletes. They used to protect guys like Steven Jackson, Malice at the Palace, like, bruh, specifically, when Shannon Sharp did the Shay Shay interview with Cat Williams, that set the whole world on fire, and out of jealousy, it appears, Steven Jackson goes, you can't just come on our show and talk about people like that. We got relationships with our guests, our former guests, because Cat Williams talked about a few guys that were on Shay Shay before, Club Shannon Sharp before. And so Steven Jackson says that kind of shit, but he forgets that Charles Oakley was on his show and, was shitting on Isaiah Thomas, and Steven Jackson forgot that, hey, Isaiah Thomas the one that got you back in the league after Pat Ballas in the Palace, when you out there swinging on 5'9", 300-pound motherfuckers. Like, and pardon the language, guys. I'm just saying, I don't know Stephen A. Smith. I don't know Steven Jackson. I don't know Whitlock. I don't know Levitar. I don't know any of these guys. I just watch them just like you do and hear these things, and it's like, wow, I can't believe this, that people are saying these things about these people. But I digress. I'm going to hop off here. Hey, I'm going to tell you one thing. I know one thing I want to talk about at the beginning. Sometime in the next week, I'm going to give you a movie review. A movie that I'm looking forward to watching. That Unfrosted movie. Basically the story of Pop-Tarts. it just looks funny. Jerry, who's in it? Jerry Seinfeld, Melissa McCarthy, Bill Burr. Basically the story of Pop-Tarts. I like those kind of movies. Like, I didn't watch, I like biopics, things like that. I didn't watch the Flamin' Hot movie because I don't eat Flamin' Hots like that. I've nibbled on them here and there, but I don't buy them like that to care about the history of them. But, biopics, Notorious, All Eyes on Me, Straight Outta Compton, things like that. I've always liked those. J. Edgar. I've always watched movies like that. Malcolm X, all that stuff, But so I'm going to watch this Unfrosted movie because this just looks like it's funny. All the clips I've seen of it seem hilarious. But I'm going to hop off of here. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. And I'll be back at you soon. But until then, everybody be well. Peace out.